respected elders and brothers and sisters. We are blessed to have a wonderful speaker with us this evening. Maarten Wagener was first introduced to Swami, to the teachings of Sri Sathya Sai Baba in the late 80s. Swami's presence, teachings, and unconditional love have been the guiding light in his personal, professional, and spiritual journey. Maarten is fortunate to have made numerous trips to Prashanthi Nilayam. In the USA, he became involved with the young adult program and with the Sathya Sai Baba Center of Hollywood, where he served as president from 1999 to 2003. He has held leadership roles there as well. In 2001, he met his wife Tharani, and they have 2 children. Currently, Maarten serves as the young adult advisor for the Region 8 young adults. And Maarten Wagener is a real estate investor by profession. So without further ado, let's please welcome Brother Maarten Wagener.
Oh, make me like you, please make me like you. You are a servant, please make me one too. Oh Lord, I am willing, please do what you must do. To make me like you, Lord, make me like you. Dearest Lord, Sri Sathya Baba, I offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet, and I offer this sharing at your feet, and I pray that the words spoken here this evening are yours. I want to thank you for this opportunity, and dearest respected elders, brothers and sisters, thank you for this opportunity to once again share story and experiences with Swami. It's always a wonderful thing to be doing that. There's kind of nothing else I'd rather do than talk about Swami and share about Swami and hear stories about Swami. So it's a wonderful thing. It's a very beautiful energy here. So Saram, thank you for having me. Whoops. That goes one thing. So should I put this on? Is it on right now? Yeah, I need to share 1 second. Let's get all the technical stuff worked out. We're good, right? Okay, awesome. Thank you. I'm going to do a little different from usual because that way it stays a little fresh. I'm going to go back to the year 2000, straight into one of the experiences in Prashanthi Nilayam. That year we were blessed with the Hollywood Center to have a number of interviews. And the first interview we got as the whole group, Swami said, I will see 2-3 people at a time in the following days. So a few days later, it was my turn. And I found myself on the ramp to the veranda. That is right, sort of wrapping around the interview room. It's at a point very close to where the ladies sit, so they have a good view of what's going on that ramp. And I was seated there, and when it was our turn to go into the interview room, Swami came and he motioned us to go. So I'm going to sit down for a second because I need a visual for this. So I was seated like this on a cushion, and Swami motioned. You can go. Okay, I hope I'm not messing up the camera. So he was, and this is going to be very challenging to follow me because Swami was playing with me. So he said, come on in. So I got ready to stand up. I grabbed my cushion and my book, and I got up like this. And I look at Swami, and Swami goes like that. And I'm like, oh my God, what does this mean? Is this like, do I have to learn love my uncertainty, or is he blessing me, or do I have to just wait? So I took the ladder. I said, oh, you know what, I should probably wait. So I went back like this. I sat down, put my stuff down, and I sat. And then I looked at him again, and then he was motioning me to go. So I get up again. I grab my cushion, grab my stuff. I look at him, and again he goes, no, like this. So I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I put my stuff down again, and I sit and look at him, and then finally he says, go. So, okay, I'm getting up, and I go into the interview room. Obviously, that was a very comical scene, and the ladies that were sitting close to this area were able to see it, and there was laughter by the ladies. They were like, Swami was just playing with me completely. So finally, when it was when I went in, and I heard this later from others that were in that area that witnessed this, they said that Swami had walked to the edge of the ramp to the veranda, looking at the ladies, and went like this. Crazy for God, which is, Swami, one of Swami's plays that he has with devotees. And so this is one of these things that is a good reminder of this quote, where Swami says, do you delight when I allow you to be near me? The next moment I might cause you the sorrow of separation. Do you feel a sense of elevation when I praise you a little? That very moment I may prick the bubble of your pride by means of ridicule. I do not allow you to go back, nor do I allow you to go forward. I madden your mind and smother your ego. Find out how anyone can move away from this charming sigh, the embodiment of love and light. Thank you. Find out the reason why he is indispensable in spite of his dual role. I love that quote. And so clearly he was playing, he was messing with me. And this is how we learn, right? And it's a beautiful thing. So this was one of these things where Swami made it clear that I have this craziness for God. So, and I was reminded the other day, this is kind of funny, when I talked to my mom via Skype, she reminded me that when I was a little boy, at some point I got hoisted into the mast of a sailing boat. We used to sail a lot in the Netherlands, and there was some stuff that needed to be done up top in the mast, and my dad hoisted me up. And I remember this, I was like a toddler, I was a very young kid. And I was looking down at the onlookers, my family members, and I exclaimed with lots of enthusiasm, I can see God. So you can see there was already a little bit of craziness for God in me in the early days. And well, that's I don't know where it came from. I was baptized, but never really went to church. It's just something that must be from another life. Also, I remember very clearly when I was young, around maybe 9, 10, 11, that I was thinking, if Jesus is the Son of God, I really want to know the Father. I want to know God. And of course, little did I know that many years later, I actually had the chance to sit at the feet of the Lord. So I'll share a little bit here about how I got to be face to face with the omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient Kali Yuga Purna Avatar, which is it's a mouthful, but it's a very important thing. I mean, truly, to be in front of the very essence of everything that is, everything that was, and everything that will ever be in a human form is obviously something so super remarkable. Swami has said that it's very hard to be born as a human, but it's especially hard to be born as a human during the time when the Avatar walks the earth. He says it's even that much harder to be born at a time when the Avatar walks the earth and to hear his name mentioned once. And he said this during discourse. Then he said, just imagine the grace you're having right now, listening to my discourse and having my darshan. So it's something that's very important for all of us to keep in mind. So I'll go into a little bit of how I got to find out about Swami. I first heard Swami's name mentioned in the late 80s. I had my college roommate, Greg Slee. Many of you know him. He's been the devotional coordinator for 4 years, and now he's with the Cyprem and Iliam, the Love and Devotion Committee. So it's an amazing thing. We both came from opposite sides of the earth, really. Ended up both in Santa Barbara, both in the same place, ended up as roommates. And then at some point, his mom started talking about Sai Baba, and well, for him, it was they got sort of in an argument about it because he didn't want to hear he didn't want to hear anything about it anymore. And then at some point, he got Sai Baba dreams, and so he got pulled in that way. And eventually, I had my share of Baba dreams too. So the one thing that was very interesting, let me see. So what was interesting is that as we got sort of more into Baba and reading books and listening to tapes with Isaac Tigert, etc., we started talking about doing service projects and that kind of thing. We felt we needed to start putting some of his teaching into practice. And a number of times when we would talk about it or think about it, we'd have this fragrance of jasmine that came out of nowhere. It's sort of the first indication of his omnipresence, where you were just talking about implementing his teachings, and then this fragrance out of nowhere, this fragrance of jasmine comes out. So that was very powerful. And then eventually I had my first, actually we went eventually to the Sathya Sai Baba Center of Santa Barbara. And that was a little bit of a challenge for me initially. It was a very different way of worshiping God. So the following day, I'm thinking back at the night before at the center, and I had this thought: this stuff of Sai Baba and God is not for me. And then I was driving my car at the time when I had that thought. I had come to a traffic light, and I looked at the car in front of me, and the license plate said this: GODIS, the number 4 and letter U. So the thought was, the stuff of Sai Baba and God is not for me, and the answer on the license plate right away was, God is for me. God is for you. And then not long after that, I had my first dream. You see, in this dream I was with Swami. He put his hand with palm up right in front of my eyes and materialized these unbelievably beautiful stones. It was like surreal, the color, and there was the sound of chimes as they appeared. It was something so powerful that I fell onto the floor before him, prostrating and saying, "You are God, you are God, you are God." That was my first sort of direct experience with him. And that was followed by the second dream that I now will share with you. I'm going to go through this a little quicker because I've shared this before. By the way, have a lot of you heard any of these stories before? Now that way I can go. No, okay, then I'll take my time. So on the second dream, it was a scene just like what you see on the screen, and I asked Swami mentally what it's like to be in heaven, and he stretched out his hand, and as I took hold of his hand, I had this amazing experience. I mean, I've never been able to describe it. I wasn't able to remember it or relate to it. The moment I woke up, it was sort of, the whole experience was kind of pulled out of me. I was not really allowed to remember it or relate to it. And many years later, I figured out the reason I couldn't relate to it or remember it was because I think it would have been very difficult to have a sort of a normal life, and you would just lose interest in life if you could still always remember that experience that I went through in that dream. So now I'm going to share a few things that are quite. I've not shared this before. In in 1997, I made my very first trip to see Swami. It was the first global youth conference. And so Swami was playing a lot with us because I was 33. And at the time, the guidelines were if you're over 30, you're not a YA, you're not an official YA. And so we talked to the leadership. Said, well, can you make an exception, etc. And they said, well, okay, we'll try to figure it out. And it went back and forth. And they said, like, just take the trip, and we'll let you know when we get there whether you're a delegate or not. So a very funny thing happened that by the time we arrived in Prasanthi Nilayam with a bus, they told us, I'm very sorry, but you can't be delegate. So and there's no room for you at the ashram. So you're going to have to find something outside. And it's very funny. I was talking to Greg about this experience today, and it was quite an amazing thing. So we were with a group of 4 or 5, and we started walking, basically heading towards the exit of the ashram from the accommodations office. And there was some grumblings within the group, sort of like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Why is Swami doing this? And I remember I mentioned something to the effect, look, if it's Swami's will, we should be fine with it. It's okay, not that big a deal. At that moment, we were walking by. You recognize this undoubtedly, and I have a few other vantage points, a few other angles. So you see the gates, right, to the mandir. So what happened was, as we were walking by, guess what happened? Oh, let me explain this first. So let me go. I'll continue. So what happened is this. Swami had come out of the gate. There was nobody. There was nobody on the courtyard there. And he was standing with a double blessing just for us. I mean, it's mind-blowing. I got choked up today thinking about it. I didn't know any better. It was my first few moments in the ashram. I was like, I guess that's what he does. He just walks around. He'll give darshan, but then the rest of the time he'll just walk around and talk to people or whatever. I thought that's kind of how it was. It was mind-boggling. Later on, of course, I realized that if you look at this picture, this is what the normal scenery is. All the people seated behind Swami, that's actually the courtyard outside the gate. So normally when he comes out, that's what it looks like, right? Now he's inside, and then you can see the group of people. But this is what we saw. Only Swami and us. And Swami was like that. So that was really amazing. I was there with my guitar. I dropped my guitar. I went on my knees and I prostrated before him. It was a beautiful thing. It turned out to be an amazing trip. I got Pat Namaskar, but there were a lot of other things that happened on the trip. I think Greg has shared here, if I'm not mistaken. So that was a trip that he found out he was actually going to get married with somebody he had never met before, Rani. And as you all know, Rani and Greg. So it's an amazing story in and of itself. So yeah, that was quite an experience. So now I am going to jump forward to the first interview that we had. This was in the year 2000. This was with the Hollywood Science Center. And we were told a couple of days prior to the interview that we would have an interview. No, sorry, the day before that we had the interview, he said, I will give you guys an interview tomorrow. And so I had the time to put together a list with some questions. And the following day, the moment we sat down, I sat kind of in the back. Swami pointed through everybody. He pointed at me. And he addressed the first question on my list. And that's mind-boggling. I mean, that shows omniscience, like anything. I was blown away by that experience. And he was materializing a lot. He materialized a lot of things for a lot of different people. He made a cup of vibhuti like this large for some people. And then finally he motioned me, again, I was seated still in the back, and he motioned me to come forward. So I ended up sitting right at his feet. And he started moving his hand like this. And then out popped this ring. And he said, before he put it on, he said, perfect fit. He put it on my finger, and of course it is a perfect fit. And then he explained it's protection from the negative influences of the 9 planets. So I was blown away. I grabbed his hand, put it on my forehead, kissed the back of his hand. So very beautiful experience. And then at some point, we were all seated, and Swami was standing, and he was like handing people vibhuti and different things. And then at some point, he looked at me and said, "Do you want marriage?" And I sort of blurted out, "Whatever is your will, Swami." And then he turned around, he was kind of with his back to me, and it was quiet, and he was sort of, and whatever, doing his thing. And then he turned back around, pointed at me, said, "No, but do you want marriage?" Very sternly. And so I guess I had to kind of go deeper a little bit. And that's when I answered and said, "I think it will be a good thing at some point, Swami." And then, this was in 2000. It was not long thereafter that I met my wife at the Hollywood Center. In 2002, we got married. We got all of that confirmed with him. I gave him, this was in 2001, I believe. I gave him a letter, asked him about us getting married. And my wife, Tarni, she had, before I left for Prashanthi, to give Swami the letter and ask for his blessings for the marriage. She had a dream with Baba where Swami showered us with vibhuti, put his hand over us and showered us with vibhuti. So she had her confirmation that way, and I had mine, asking for his blessings through a letter that I gave him. Let's see. Then there were a number of things that happened at the interview. I have to, it's 8:15, right? So there were a number of things that happened in this interview. At some point, actually, towards the end of the interview, he told us to go, but I felt like I was right in front of him. I thought it was rude if I would walk in front of him. So I said, "No, Swami, after you." And then he said, No, go. And so then, of course, he made it very clear I had to start walking. So I started walking, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and he started straightening out my scarf. It was a beautiful moment. I was in bliss. Let me, oh gosh, I've missed a few slides. Oh yeah, this is this story, and some of you may know it already. So Tarni and I, we got married. We actually got married in the Shiva temple where Swami was born, so it's a great blessing, and we were very fortunate to have that, and very grateful to Swami for that. And we have 2 kids, Ishan and Anjali. So then, at some point, not long ago, when we were, this was right around our, actually, the day after our 20th wedding anniversary, we made a trip our way to the Turks and Caicos. And I noticed that my one of my stones had fallen out. And I was like, "Oh my God!" Sorry. I was, "Oh my God!" Swami, this is something that he materialized. I was crushed, and this was actually preempted. I got to go back a little bit. This had happened once before. I was in the shower, and I noticed that this thing was gone, and I happened to just look down. And there it was. That in and of itself is already also just a miracle, because why didn't it get washed out? I saw it just at the right time. I looked down just at the right time, and there it was. So I had the stone, and I just put it back in. Since Swami put it on my finger, I've never taken it off. So I don't want to give it to a jeweler to put the stone back in. So I kind of jerry-rigged it myself. I put some super glue in it, popped it in, and it actually kind of clicked in place. So I thought, okay, it should be fine. But then on that trip to Turks and Caicos, I noticed literally the day after we had our wedding anniversary, I said, "Oh my God, it's gone again." And that was like, okay, forget about it. It could be anywhere. It could be anywhere between Los Angeles and here. It could be, we were at the beach. I was with the kids. It could be anywhere. And so I looked everywhere, and I kept sort of, sensing or hearing or feeling, whatever. Check the car. So I ended up going to the rental car that we have. Now, the rental car is the kind of car that has the steering wheel on the right, right? It's British. You drive on the right side of the road. So I started looking. There's the steering wheel. So if you have the steering wheel on the right side, my right hand that the ring is on is on the right side of the steering wheel, which sits on the right side of the car. So when I started looking, and I looked at this coffee cup holder, can you see it? Okay. So the left coffee cup holder side, can you see there's something in there? And don't worry, I'll blow it up. So here, it's right there. There it is. Can you see it? That was it. So of all places between Los Angeles and Turks and Caicos, that's where Swami put it, on the left side of the steering wheel, when my hand is on the right side. Miraculous. I have no idea. I mean, clearly that was a miracle. And I'm very grateful to Swami. Thank you, Baba, for making sure I got that beautiful thing back. So now, actually, and I don't know, maybe people can give me feedback on this. I didn't really know what to do with it. And then people started telling me, maybe you should, if it's fallen out twice, maybe you should just keep it separated. Maybe you're not supposed to have it in the ring anymore for some reason. So that's what I've been doing. I have it at my altar. But at least I still have it. So that's a good thing. Let's see. Oh yeah, another experience that I had. This is one of the quotes that I that always stuck with me, because Swami talked at some point. This was right sort of at the peak of him being known in the world, and there were more and more people, celebrities that are going to Prashanti. I don't need to mention any names, but celebrities, politicians, all sorts of big people supposedly had been going. So I thought, oh my God, now it's like a tipping point. Now the whole world is gonna know him, because this is what he has said is going to happen. But then he stated at some point in one of the discourses, he said, there's going to be a time when there's going to be 11 rooms in the ashram for every one person. I always felt that was Swami. There's no way. How can that be? That doesn't make sense. At a time when they couldn't keep up with the number of people coming, they were building all these new structures to accommodate people coming there for housing, etc. So he also said at some point in his one of the discourses, he said, "I have come for all. Those who stray away will come again to me. Do not doubt this. I shall beckon them back to me. If you cut this contact and get away, a time will come when you weep outside the gates, clamoring for entry." And it's a quote that always stuck with me. It struck me as I couldn't believe it. How many will fall away, and you will beckon them back. It was puzzling to me. So a few years later, when I was at Prashanti, I found myself at some point during a very busy period, and the mandir was packed to the rim, and they had closed the gates. There was no way in anymore. And I found myself outside of the sort of the wall outside of the gates, and I couldn't get in. And I was crushed. I was like, Swami, this is the one thing I didn't want. I'm clamoring for entry and I can't get in. I was absolutely devastated. And as I'm having these thoughts, somebody taps me on my left shoulder, to my left. It's a Sevadal. He motions me to follow him. So I follow him. He walks in through the VIP entry. It's like that. And he tells me, you can sit anywhere. And he turns around and disappears in the crowd. I mean, again, such an amazing thing. I have a thought, and Swami answers it in the physical material world instantly. And he has my back. He has all of our back, right? It's an amazing, amazing feeling to have God with you, protecting you and guiding you and guarding you and loving you all the time. So we're so fortunate. And then, let's see. At some point, Swami said, check this. So he said, and this is a quote, he said, when an airplane is about to take off, it must first approach the runway. When it reaches the runway, it must make a full turn in order to face the direction of takeoff. This turn is navigated slowly by the aircraft. After the turn has been completed, the airplane receives a signal from the tower and begins to accelerate rapidly for takeoff. When the craft has reached sufficient velocity, it leaves the ground. this is the important part. Swami's mission has made this turn to face the runway. The 70th birthday was the signal from the tower to accelerate. In the 75th birthday, the airplane will leave the ground. So we, this was Greg and Eric and myself, Eric Wing, you know him as the regional president. We were adamant about being with Swami on the 75th birthday. And with his grace, we made it there in 2000. And we really went just to be there and thought, we'll probably sit way at the back. It's going to be packed. So that's okay. We'll be fine with that. And little did we know that they had rules there during that period of time where foreign delegates could line up first. And they made it first come, first serve. If you come really early and you go to that section that's for the foreign delegates, you're really on the front line. You're the first into the mandir. You can sit anywhere. So this was unheard of and amazing to the three of us, and we took advantage of it. So somewhere around midnight, we would start, leaving our room, and we would go line up. And then the Sevadals would say, like, no, you can't do that. You have to come later. So we would, walk around some blocks and come back 10, 15 minutes late and try again until they finally gave up. Say, okay, fine, go ahead, sit down. So we would on a number of basically every darshan we were sitting very close to Swami. And here you can see where we ended up. You can, on the left picture, you can see Greg next to me. I'm the one with the glasses. And on the right picture, you can see Eric. And then further, you can see Sharon Sandwise. And I believe the Princess of Belgium was there too. So a lot of high-placed people in that area. And us little guys were, and we ended up there too. So we were very fortunate. So as you can see, I'm not the only one who's crazy for God. We didn't sleep much, but we had a wonderful time. And Swami says in regards to this sort of craziness for God, he says, to a worldly person, a God-intoxicated man will appear mad, and the person will laugh at him for it. But to the God-intoxicated man, the worldly appear insane, foolish, misled, and blind. Of all the insanities that harass people, God madness is the least harmful, the most beneficial. And so, being a little crazy and putting in some effort for God, it pays off. So here's another experience. This was on one of my trips. I'm not exactly sure which year this was. And you probably wonder, what on earth is that about? So we would be lined up for darshan, and then at some point, through those gates that I showed you earlier on, car would appear, and two gentlemen that were dressed like this. It was an Orthodox, either Greek or French, very high up people from the church that were there, and it was really remarkable because they would be dropped off, and then they would walk towards the interview room. It was dead silence. There's no music, nothing. You could hear a pin drop, and there's 10, 15, 20,000 people there, but it's complete silence. You'd hear the crows in the background, and that's it. And they would be walking, and one of the gentlemen was heavy set, and he was sort of like waddling forward, but it was a very impressive scene, and like I said, this is how they were dressed. And we found out later on that these gentlemen were there to travel through India and visit a number of different ashrams and places, etc. So they had come to Swami, and at some point, this is what we were told, the people that were sitting on the veranda. I don't remember who told me this, but there was a number of people who witnessed it or experienced it, that all of a sudden on the veranda, there was this really strong fragrance of Amrit. And we were told later that Swami had materialized a massive bowl of Amrit for these gentlemen. And so with an experience like this, guess what they did? They canceled the rest of their trip and they stayed with Swami, right? I mean, why not? Why would you go anywhere else? And so that kind of brings me to a point, this whole, why would you go anywhere else? I'm just spend a few seconds on this, because nowadays I think it's important. It doesn't really apply to us here, but when when you have this treasure trove of discourses that are coming directly from God, that we have available to us, why would we go anywhere else? And what would Swami want from us? To practice and implement his teachings from this treasure trove of discourses and teachings, or pursue messages elsewhere? I think we all know the answer to that. Stay with Swami, stay with his teachings. Even if there's others that claim to be getting messages from him, don't get sidetracked. Stay with one form, stay with one name. Kali Purna Avatar, it's the safest thing to do. He is there for us. And then that also kind of applies a little bit to the structure of his organization, and every aspect of which he has initiated and founded and nurtured himself. So we have to be careful not to be sidetracked with man-made elements of that structure since he left his form. And why is that so important to stay with these teachings? I need to start wrapping it up, I think. I have a bunch of quotes here that you can see are very powerful. Swami says, "Be patient. In time, everything will be given to you. Be happy. There's no need to worry about anything. You are all sacred souls, and you will have your parts to play in the unfolding drama of the new golden age, which is coming." It's very important to always remind ourselves of this. Whether he's in the form or he's not in the form, he's omnipresent, he's omnipotent, and he's omniscient. Nothing he cannot do. No place that he is not. And nothing that he doesn't know. So the Lord alone is aware of the plan, or his is the plan. You see only a part of the play on the stage, and so it's all very confused. When the entire story is unfolded, then you will appreciate his plan, and not until then. The whole world will be transformed into Sathya Sai organization. This is my favorite quote. It's a very good reminder for all of us. The whole world will be transformed into Sathya Sai organization, and Sathya Sai will be installed in the hearts of one and all. There is nothing that divine power cannot accomplish. It can transmute earth into sky and sky into earth. To doubt this is to prove that you are too weak to grasp the grandeur of the universal. And then this is another one of my favorites. Believe it or not, in the next 25 to 30 years, the entire human race will become one. People of all religions, like Hindu, Muslim, Christian, etc., will be united. There will be complete unity in the world. It is from Bharat, India, that the spirit of devotion for God will spread to all other parts of the world. Treasure this truth in your heart. That was in 2008. So you can count. Now we know Swami has said, love my uncertainty, and there's a number of things he plays with the years, etc. But I have no doubt, and I mean zero doubt, that he came here to turn adharma into dharma. And he will accomplish that, even though right now, like he says, all may seem very confused. If you turn on the news, there's a long way to go to a full world full of dharma. So there's still a long way to go. But that's why I'm saying, as an organization, we have our work cut out for us. And Swami will be there all the way through to support that, and in whatever way, shape, or form. So what's important to keep in mind when Swami makes these statements is about, we all know his name is Sathya, it's truth. So everything that he says, it is nothing but truth. The Lord will never deviate from the word. He said that in volume 2 of Sathya Sai Speaks, chapter 22. Once my word goes forth, it must happen accordingly. Do not doubt it. My word will never fail. It must happen as I will. What I will must take place. What I plan must succeed. Whatever I say is the truth. Whatever I do is the truth. Whatever I will is the truth. This is the confidence you should have, even though things may appear otherwise. That's kind of, again, what I was saying earlier. It may appear like we're in an otherwise type of period, but he's going to make sure that this adharma will be removed, and that dharma will be left. see. So there's more beautiful stuff here. You are going to witness the divine glory of Swami unfolding in the days to come. He will attract the whole world. There won't be place for people to stand even. Now remember what I just said about the truth. So I don't know. I can speculate. I'm not going to do that. I've been advised against that, and I won't. But he has his ways. There's nothing he can do. He can turn earth into sky and sky into earth. He will make it happen. What the future holds is beyond your understanding, but I can see what the future is going to be like. A time will come when the whole world will be at my feet. A time will come when a time will come when the whole world will rejoice in having understood my true divinity, my true nature. It is a great effort I am making. Thereby I am confining myself. I'm not letting my glory spread all on its own, all of a sudden. But certainly a day will come when the people of the world would have recognized what Swami is, his glory, his majesty, his grandeur, and they will all come flocking in their lakhs and millions. One thing I wanted to share with you, there's a lot more that I'm going to kind of wrap it up. There's one thing. Well, I'll read this one last quote. Formerly, when the Govardhanagiri mountain was raised aloft by a little boy, the gopis and gopalas realized that Krishna was the Lord. Now it is not one Govardhanagiri, but a whole range will be lifted. You will see. So that's all coming. And then I'm going to show you something that some of you may be familiar with. Cypremenium, we had recently in April the first anniversary, and you can see this there. This is for the Sri Sita Rama Kalyanam and the Sri Sathya Sai Baruka Puja. There's a gentleman there on the with a black outfit, and you know the story. A lot of you know the story. This is not something we're advertising, but I think it's okay. This is fair game here tonight to share this, and so this basically explains how, in my belief, Swami is going to be changing the world. And what happened to this gentleman that's dressed in black? He is a construction worker at Cyprem. I get choked up. He's a construction worker at Cyprem and works for Anuruddha. And I think he's the guy, but I'm pretty sure it may be one of the other guys. But yeah, I believe he's the one that he had a skin problem, and they gave him vibhuti, and it resolved an issue that he had been struggling with for some time. And so normally he walks around in Cypremenium with a tool belt and a screw gun, and he's a salt of the earth kind of guy, working hard. And so at some point, he was laying tile, and I talked to Anirudh about this. I asked him about the details. And so he was laying tile, and he gets a tap on the shoulder, and he looks around, and it's Swami. He said to Sai Baba right there. And they had sensed it already before, that something like they could feel that there was somebody there or moving, but then this time it was really Baba in the form, making himself visible to this gentleman. And then Swami walked off to the kitchen and disappeared. And apparently they've also seen Shirdi Sai as well. So Swami can do anything. From that point of view, it's not going to have too much of an effect that he's not in the physical form, because he doesn't need really that form. He can do anything. So I wanted to share that. That's pretty much it. Yeah, we're over time. So I want to thank you all for listening, and I'm very grateful to being able to share these stories with you all. And thank you, Swami, and Jai Sai Ram.